Welcome to ACD Combatives, your combatives and control tactics channel. Please like, subscribe, and share. Hey guys, Coach Kurt here. So I'm here to answer a question that I get from non-law enforcement students or just questions from civilians in general. Now let me start by saying that I am absolutely not a lawyer, so any legal advice I give you, it's not that at all. It's just my point of view. Now I am a use of force instructor, and that is different from control tactics and field training. What is a use of force instructor? My job is to know and understand and how to teach the use of force, not the physical control tactics, but understanding the case law and teach that concept of the use of force and how it applies to law enforcement officers. So take that with a grain of salt because it's for my agency for law enforcement officers. But I've been on the job for 25 years and I've seen a lot of common things and themes when it comes to civilians when they use force. And from a control tactics point of view, or more importantly, as a martial artist, most martial arts schools, even the ones that teach like what I call combat-based systems like Krav Maga or something like that, the instructor's a civilian or maybe comes from a military background if you're so inclined to find one that has that background. But understanding the use of force as it applies to a citizen is very different, and you should absolutely know what you're doing or what the consequences of your actions may be. Now, from a law enforcement point of view, generally speaking, again, everything I'm about to tell you is generalized and basic and generic. But generally speaking, if you're not talking about agency policies, and every agency has its own policy, generically speaking, the Supreme Court has given us Graham v. Connor. Now, that is for police officers. That's for law enforcement. It's for the popo. Is it reasonably objective use of force? Now, it's going to be a little different for civilians. You still have the right to defend yourself. Abso-friggin-lutely. You have a right to not get your ass beat by somebody. There is a big difference between self-defense and fighting. I will use the bar fight as an example. You get pissed off at somebody, he's pissed off at you, and it's mutual combat quite often in a bar fight situation. That's not self-defense. Again, generically speaking, some guy comes up from out of the blue and pushes you and picks a fight with you because he thinks you're somebody else or he's just drunk. That's self-defense. But I think you know what I'm saying here. There's a big difference between self-defense and actual combat or fighting, mutual combat, where two people throw down. Generically speaking, they're two different things. Okay, so I hope I beat that dead horse. So what are some things you have to be concerned about? Let's keep this more generic. Self-defense as it relates to deadly force in a public setting. For whatever reason, you're in a parking garage, you're being smart, you parked in a lit area, you got your keys in your hand, you're walking to your car, and some jackass comes around the corner with a knife in his hand or a bat or a firearm or what have you. And the first thing you need to be aware of, this was self-defense. Do not appear as a threat with your gun out when the police arrive. So let's say hypothetically you shoot the person in self-defense. You didn't shoot to kill, you shoot to stop the threat. You can continue to accurately fire your weapon until the threat is no longer a threat. That's what we say in law enforcement. No, I wasn't trying to shoot him 10 times, but it took 10 times to put him down because he was on drugs or what have you. And firearms aren't like in the movies where you shoot somebody with a 9mm and they go flying back across the room like they're on a trapeze line. Movies really screw that up as far as realism. Sometimes you shoot somebody and it's like you didn't even do anything to them and then they bleed out. The FBI shooting in Miami was a good example of that, where the bad guys were dead, they just didn't know it already, but it took them a long time to bleed out and die, and they were able to do a lot of hate and discontent and kill some FBI agents before they died. But let me get back on track. You've used your force. You've called 911. Okay. This was self-defense. make it perfectly clear. Joe Schmo, this white male adult, just attacked me. He had a knife. I was forced to defend myself. I need the police. I need the police now. Keep it short and simple. You need to give a statement of fact, because the dispatch is going to relay that information to the oncoming police. Now remember, the police are responding. What they are used to dealing with are criminals all the time. So they're going to pull up. Don't be standing there with a gun out. Have that gun put away. If you're a female, put it back in your purse. Put it in your car, on the seat where it's in plain view. So when they show up, put it back in your holster. When the police show up, have your hands in the air. Have maybe your ID in your hand or something where they know that you're obviously a victim. You have to look like a victim. Be the victim, because that's what you are. Don't give them any reason to not think otherwise. Cooperate as much as you can. I know you've just been through a stressful situation. Now, most lawyers will tell you, don't give any statements to the police. And I don't disagree with that comment at all. But there are still some things to consider. The police are going to maybe end up arresting you if you don't give them a statement. They have to articulate in the report what happened, what's going on, and they don't know yet what's going on. So you have to come across as the victim, let them know I was attacked. I defended myself with my firearm, and just leave it at that, because it's important at that point to point out possible evidence. Your brass went this way because 911 was called, EMS is on the scene, and firefighters and paramedics are really good at destroying evidence. So be your own best friend, be your own defense attorney when you're on the scene. Give them a super basic statement of fact. I was forced to defend myself. He was going to kill me. I used my firearm. Police are used to people not cooperating. They're usually the bad guys. Don't come off that way whatsoever. Don't assume that they know that you're the victim. You know what happened, but they don't. They are fresh on the scene. Point out, maybe have your cell phone out before the police arrive. Take pictures. There's witnesses. Take their pictures. Point witnesses out to the police when they arrive. That individual saw what happened. Because a lot of times people won't cooperate and automatically come forward and do the right thing. You might have to defend yourself in this situation. Make sure that evidence doesn't disappear. Like I said, brass on the ground from your firearm, or maybe the bad guy shot at you, and firefighters and paramedics and even responding police officers might step on that brass and kick it under a car. It might disappear. You just never know. A gun that fell on the ground might end up into the hands of another bad guy because they saw it hit the ground and they pick it up and leave the scene. So this is super important to think about, these little things that you don't get in your martial arts school. They teach you how to do kung fu, grip on somebody's throat and rip it out, or rip a beating heart out of somebody's chest, but they don't tell you about the consequences of your use of force after the fact. Again, a quick statement. This was self-defense, and I respectfully request a lawyer before answering other questions. Remember, you may not remember things correctly either. Most police officers in a shooting scenario don't give a statement to the responding investigating officers. Quite often, Agency A was in the shooting. Officer Smith with Agency A. Agency B, a neighboring agency, does the investigation, so there's no bias. Don't be in a hurry to give that statement. Lawyers will tell you this. They'll listen, man, you are still stressed out. You may not remember everything correctly until your adrenaline calms down and you've had a good night's sleep, which isn't going to come the first night. You need to slow down and think things through. Again, quick basic statement, nothing more, nothing less, and respectfully request your lawyer. And have one on detainer. It's good if you are a legally armed citizen or a martial artist, or if you have any plans of ever having to defend yourself in the real world, know and understand that you might want to have a good lawyer on retainer. And if you carry firearms, maybe get some kind of insurance, or if you are involved in a civil, legal and or civil case, you will have attorneys that will defend you, and you have insurance. Like I have $1 million insurance now. That's because I'm in law enforcement, but I'm going to carry it when I retire in 2-3 years. I'm going to do the same thing. These is just food for thought. I threw a lot at you real quick, but quickly in a nutshell, number one, make it clear that this was self-defense and have your gun put away. Come across as little as emotion as possible. I know that's going to be extremely difficult, but be very polite and respectful. Point out to the officers evidence that hit the ground or what have you. Be very cooperative, because that evidence is your best friend as well. It's not just for the police officers. Make your quick statement that I defended myself. It was self-defense. I am the victim, but I respectfully request a lawyer, and then get yourself a lawyer. It's that simple. You see it in the movies. Cops have lawyers. Cops have union reps and all that kind of stuff that come to their aid when they're involved in a shooting. It should be the same with civilians. So if you have any questions on the same subject matter, feel free to ask me again. I'm not a lawyer. This is all very generic, based on your local laws. Things might be a little different. I don't know. I don't even know if you have a concealed weapons license, and in some states you don't need it. But if you're going to carry a gun, you should know about the possible aftermath, because it's going to go. You're not only going to be done when the DA's office says, no, we're not going to file on this. This was clearly self-defense. But then the bad guy's family might sue you. Or if the bad guy didn't die, he might sue you, and you'll be in a civil situation. I know that sounds silly, but it's just the way of the world. So have that stuff in the back of your mind. And again, any questions about this or any other kind of self-defense scenario, please feel free to send me something in comments or email me, reach out, however.
Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out.